Wherever you are, make it TFR. Truth Frequency Radio.
When you finally boil it all down, magic is imagination. We are moving into an age of manifestation. Things become actually less material, more ethereal. The golden dawn is when we awaken to this new station of life. What you think becomes real quicker. Regain our imagination, regain our inner child, and let that inner child out.
My name is Frank Castle, founding member of the music group Heist Click and New York City Neo Shaman. After a serious injury sidelined my career in 2013, I decided to set out on an adventure to search for myself with the help of the plant medicine ayahuasca. What I discovered waiting for me was something I could have never prepared for. It was time for me to become something more, someone more. It was time I became fearless. Shine as my heart beats a rhythm with space and time. When the light starts to shine inside your third eye, you awake to the knowledge that you never die.
Wow, that's knowledge right there on that intro, right? Awaking to the knowledge that you never die. That's because I'm becoming fearless. What's up, everybody? It's Saturday night. I get so pumped up listening to that. I feel like I'm like when Metallica plays that song Fuel, you just want to take your glasses off, throw them, walk into the room like it's a WWE segment. Well, you know what that means when that happens, right? It means it's Saturday night.
It's Saturday night.
It's time to become fearless.
Yes, it is.
I'm sitting here with my etherical translator, Paula Milo.
Hey, everyone.
Hi.
Hi.
It's great to see you.
Great to see you.
Oh, okay, great. And we have a special guest with us tonight.
Yes, we do.
And he's been a guest on the show before.
Yes, he has.
And his name is Josh.
Hey, I'm Josh.
He's from the Earworms. He's a drummer.
Yeah, came here to hang out and get more into the deep end of the cosmic pool.
Tonight is definitely deep end work. Been waiting to do this episode since the very beginning. When I talked about, we got to catch up to what's going on. So we,
Right.
All right, wait, time out. I always do this. I want to jump right into the conversation. But before we do, I'd like to say special shout-outs to Chris and Cherie Gio. Without them, I'd not be here giving you this awesome show on Saturday night.
True.
Pouring truth and light into your open heart chakra, into your face.
Into your face.
And, I'm glad you guys are enjoying it. And stick around after the show, Beyond the Veil. Great show. Love those two, Chris and Cherie. Talked to them a couple times during the week. So much going on with plant medicines around the world. But if you like all this and you want to show a little bit of support, what do we do, Paula?
We subscribe. We get the app.
Where do we get
sign
it?
up. Truthfrequencyradio.com.
And there's also an app. You could get the app and you could just flappity flap the app anytime you're ready to rap and listen to your favorite shows, sign up. There's so much in the archives. It's insane.
Mm-hmm.
So many great shows.
Well,
so,
what episode is this now? This is
21.
21.
Oh, my God. Another divisible number?
By 7. 777.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, 21.
I'm so happy. All right, so wherever you are, make it TFR. And don't forget, check out Heist Click, HEISTCLICK. That's the hip-hop group. It's the music you hear in the background running. So, okay.
Do your disclaimer first.
Okay.
We got a lot of stuff to get
I know. Okay. Now it's time for the disclaimer. This is the story of my journey and my journey alone. I don't suggest you try this at home alone. That is, unless you are ready, and then by all means, proceed. But first, we suggest finding a reputable shaman who knows what he or she is doing. And travel safe in the love and the light. And remember, the universe rewards bravery. Shout outs to everybody in the chat room. Love you guys. I'm ready now. We're done with all of it.
Okay, so where are we picking this up?
All right. I know people that are in the deep end of the pool or hear names like Corey Good.
Yeah.
Who's his buddy?
David Wilcock.
David Wilcock.
Yeah.
You named another guy, Simon Parks.
Yeah, he's. I mean,
Well,
you
we'll
know,
just
yeah,
get names like that.
He's a little funky, but yeah, he's in the mix.
There's a lot of guys out there doing things. I can only speak on behalf of what I know, and this is going to be a continuation of the next part of the story from last week.
Yeah.
But this is where it gets super crazy.
Okay.
During this experience, I was almost awake during the whole thing as well. My eyes were open. And then when I'd close my eyes, I would just see a little bit more, but not much more. It was like being in the room with everybody. I was taken onto a giant blue sphere.
Okay.
A lot of these guys talk about the blue spheres. We hear about blue spheres in history.
Right.
There's paintings of Jesus with the blue sphere.
Right.
There's blue pearls, they call them, orbs. Well, they're a consciousness or a collective consciousness. This is how I see it, with also technology connected inside of it. The ball of light can be of any size, and inside can be any of size. So the ball can be the size of a grapefruit flying around doing its thing, and you enter it, and it's huge on the inside.
Right.
It expands into what I would call a round, circular, spherical spaceship.
Okay.
All right, I was taken directly into one of these, etherically. So that means my body was down, and I had my eyes open, though, which was really weird because I thought there was an abduction happening. I saw the sphere, and I rocketed into it, and it felt like the membrane that I discussed passing through when you break through in a DMT session.
Okay.
You fly through a membrane. But this wasn't pulsating. Like, it wasn't liquid-like. It was light. It was like a ball of light. Anyway, I'm inside, and I'm standing on what seems to be a deck overlooking people running the machinery there. The machinery was all gold, technology, everything was gold. Crystal buttons, hall of screens. It had all the bells and whistles. And then you can look out in every direction out of the sphere. So you have a basic circular window around you. There were so many beings in there. I'm just going to start the story with who I met immediately, because I freaked out at first, but I've seen this before in paintings and stuff. I've heard about the ascension taking place and these things arriving, and then you like float into them.
So there was a familiarity when you...
Just from history books and stuff. From what I've researched and seen, there's like, okay, well, this is something that I know. Right. Like through a lot of my research, you hear about things, and then you meet something you've never heard of. And
well, I can confirm the blue balls, because in 2012 I was on my roof, and I've told you about this, and I was talking to a friend on the phone, and completely sober. I was just, I think having a cigarette, and all of a sudden, 9 balls of light appeared over my head.
I remember this story.
Yeah, and they were as big as a basketball, okay? And they were undulating like a snake on water. They were cobalt blue with like a ring of like white around them. So they were really blue in the center, and then as it got closer to the edge, it was whiter. And I sat there, and it was just like in a horror movie. I couldn't speak for a minute, and I was on the phone, and I went, "Oh!" And my friend was like, "What?" And I literally couldn't say to him what was happening. Like, I just couldn't get it out. I was like, this is fucking crazy. This is what it's like in a horror film where you're like, just say it, dude. Come on.
It won't come out.
And it won't come out. And then finally I said to him, I was like, dude, I don't know how to say this without sounding mad. And he said, well, we've known each other a long time. I don't really think you're going to say anything that sounds any mad that's ever come out of your mouth. So yeah, that's how I was like, dude,
I like that one, right?
We've gone there before. So I was like, well, literally... So I tell him, I say, there's literally 9 balls of light undulating over my head about 200 feet like a snake on water. And it was just, I live in Brooklyn, New York. So this is on my roof in my backyard in Brooklyn, totally populated, lights everywhere. This wasn't something I couldn't tell. It was like I was sitting on my roof looking up and nothing was there. And these things phased in, hung out over me for about 2.5, 3 minutes. And then after I told my friend what it was and spit it out, he was like, well, what are they doing now? And then about, 30 seconds after he said that, the thing literally just swam across the sky till I couldn't see it anymore. So, this happened to me before I even knew you.
Now,
You know?
I've heard the stories of the orbs. I've seen orbs in pictures. I've seen pictures and been in situations where you actually see them. They're like solid, moving around. I've had blue colored ones. I've seen red ones, which aren't very nice. The white ones seem to be. They're all conscious.
Right.
Like they're conscious beings. I didn't get the part where inside when you go, it expanded to me because I couldn't tell how big it was. Like from a distance, it looked small, and then it got big. But then when I was inside, it was huge.
Right.
And there was so much. I mean, there was levels and levels inside. I couldn't think of anything, but to me, it reminded me of the deck in Star Trek, but it was more Star Wars looking.
Okay.
Where when they were in the cantina, or even in the Jabba the Hutt's palace, where there was just many different kinds of aliens.
Right.
And there was certain ones in charge, or
Wait. So when you got
show.
into this ball and it expanded, there was like you felt like you were the holodeck, and then there's all these beings.
Yes.
Okay. Sorry, my brain's just trying to put the picture together.
So now
I'm like, whoa, dude. Okay.
I'm looking around, and I said, "Oh, is that the sun?" Right? Like I looked. You could see out every window. It's like a giant ball window.
Right.
So you're just looking, but then there's technology focusing in. Like, yes, like that's the sun. Then a picture in front of me came up. It's the sun. Brought it up close. This is what's occurring. And I said, whoa, this is information overload right now. And I was loving it. I remember going, like, remember touching it going, hey, there's energy coming in. And I turned my head, and there was a bird-headed man. He was big enough to fit in this room, but he might have to sink his head a little bit, which is pretty high.
So like 8.5 feet.
Jacked out of it, ripped, muscular, right? Had blue tunic, something like a tunic. This is what freaked me out. He had braids in his feathers, and the beads, like this, were clanging on his little outfit, and I kept hearing the...
Right.
And I'm going like, what is this? And he looked at me. He said, my name is Thoth. I am your translator.
Whoa.
Nice,
I
Paula.
thought I was the translator.
You're the physical manifestation of the translator. So I said, it's war, Thoth.
It's female translator against male translator.
So I looked at him.
because Thoth is on my side a lot of the time, so I can't say that.
Yeah. So he looked at me, and his head moved like a bird's moves. Right. But he had a different, like a crane head. I don't know what head that is.
Yeah, his beak was very crane-like.
Yeah, his beak was long.
And thin.
And
like
thin.
A crane.
And he looked at me. I said to him, oh my, I feel like I'm in that movie Dark Crystal. When those things look at you. Yeah. Except it felt great. Yeah. It didn't feel like those guys. Right. It felt really good. And he said, don't you remember me? And he says, I'm your translator. It's me. And I said, no. I have no clue who you are. Right? And he said, okay, I'll give you the quick run by run. And he goes, look where you're standing. I said, all right, I'm standing right here. Yeah. He goes, all right. I created Thoth.
Right, his name, Thoth.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I go, what else? And he's like, that's everything.
That's everything.
That's rad you said that, because years ago, I was like, well, the word thought comes from Thoth. I thought this a long time ago. I was like, of course, this is the idea, the archetype of all these thoughts we have is this one being almost being like, I'm recording the all, documenting it.
Now, he had a giant scroll in his hand.
There you go. He's the
and I was going,
scribe of the all.
Yeah.
I said, what is that? And he's like, it's language. I created language and thought, right? And I was like, that's pretty impressive, dude. Like, I kind of like, it's nice to meet you. And he was like, you know me, but you've leveled up to me now.
Right.
Right?
Because we come into this world as human beings with amnesia. We forget everything. We're not allowed. We're not allowed to have free will and full memory of all of the previous lives. We have to give one thing or the other.
Yeah, but I think that's bunk. I think that was trickery, but I understand.
No,
You're
but
correct.
That's why you don't remember him, because time means nothing. Time isn't what it is here.
Well, we're going to get into that momentarily, considering now I had a lot of thoughts.
Right. Yeah.
Hey, Thoth, got a lot of thoughts.
Yeah. But
Are you Anunnaki? Are you Birdman? Like, who are you? And then he said, "Oh, you really don't remember me." Now, as I'm unlocking, like today I know these beings were here and physically interacted with us at one point. When they left, a corruption occurred. Then the cycle, how many generations do you need to come out of the death cycle and be reincarnated before you forget anything about this guy, right? And you're following what I tell you when you come in as a baby.
Right.
And you get raised. And anyone that doesn't believe, we chop your head off. We throw you in fire.
Yeah.
You'll believe pretty quick, right?
Right.
So everything got corrupted from these guys. Well, anyway, he was explaining this to me, and I was mouth open, like, oh, I can't believe any of this is occurring.
Right.
So I look around, and because he was huge. He's gigantic. He had a staff. All these guys have staffs. I don't know what
It's like the staff of Ra, dude.
They all have them.
Right. Well,
like Aquaman carries that trident.
Well, you know how the staffs, right?
Or
And
Poseidon.
A lot of times they have the mollusk, the spiral on top of them.
Yeah.
And a lot of times they'll be like the staff, and they'll have like
Shiva
either
has
a
that.
copper or a golden tip, right? So my understanding is the old magicians, they would literally could tune into the electromagnetic field of the earth with their staffs and charge it, and then basically shoot frequencies and stuff and change molecular density. Like
That's super alchemy, dude.
Yeah, that is super alchemy.
Haven't we descended into like, I don't know what's going on?
Yeah.
Yeah, we have.
Since we made all this up, and we're just like, remember, you made up the game. It's like, whoa, I made up the game. Yeah, and you and you and you.
Mm-hmm.
And we're all one, just
Right.
experiencing it separately.
Yeah, like you look great as me.
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
All right, listen, every time Josh is on, we go so far into the deep end of the pool that Paula, because she doesn't swim, just has to throw life rafts all day long.
No,
she's like,
no,
you
fine,
monkeys
I'm
are
fine.
jumping in where? It's like,
No,
no,
it's
man, throw that at me, help me.
She's like, come here, I'll hold your coats, go deep.
You dummies. Let's
But you have to have a good sense of humor with this.
Okay, so you're back in this, back to
I'm
being in the
in
ball.
this sphere,
And Thoth is like, dude, I created.
He said that
Thoth and
he's
all this.
not-
It's been corrupted.
Anunnaki, the
Right.
way I would think of it as Anunnaki. He goes, I'm not them.
Right.
So then,
Well, that's a pretty general term. Like a lot of times, it's like from the heavens came, right? So we
Right.
can
Nah, yeah,
consider multiple layers of these Anunnaki could have been.
but you want to know who made you, right?
Right, yeah.
That's the Anunnaki version that you want. So that's Anu and Enki and those
Right,
guys,
right.
right? Those are the guys
Enlil
that
and- yeah.
created the suit for you to wear.
or tweak the DNA in the suit.
yeah,
Like,
that's
Oh yeah, no, that's
yeah,
what
like,
they did.
Here, we're gonna tweak.
Enki
this
left the back
version.
door because we were such heavy duty slaves. But you can't contain consciousness like that for too long. You
No.
can't give it the DNA and then contain it.
Right.
Like all right. You created the superhero, and now that he's breaking free of his bonds and starting to run the show, you're going to try to trap him mentally now.
Right.
Like, listen, if Superman at any time knows and finds out that he's Superman, it's a wrap, just like Truman Show.
Mm-hmm.
You can't let him know it's fake
Right.
because he's going to destroy the construct. Why Neo woke up, bang, he
Yeah.
had to die first, right? That's like an ayahuasca trip. You have
Yeah,
to
yeah.
die,
right.
then
wake
become
up, yeah.
reborn.
Yeah.
That's the true meaning of being born again.
You just leave your body once. It's like,
Yep.
Oh,
Yeah.
and it's a wrap. I
yeah,
get it.
You're like, oh, I'm just this. The
You
consciousness
don't even have
driving
to
the car.
understand
Yeah.
this. These stories could just be whatever's, but once you go in, however your perspective picks it up, all it takes is one out of body experience where you're wide awake,
Yeah.
and you're on team human life, light,
Infinite. Yeah.
infinite, like
All.
team
all.
all.
Yeah. You're on the quest, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah, instantly.
You're like, oh, this quest is infinite. All.
Yeah.
Oh.
I'm a scientist. I don't believe in this. I'm an atheist. I'm going to go jump there. You see it once.
Right.
Done. I'm on your team.
Right.
And it doesn't matter. We don't even have to see eye to eye or experience to experience. It takes what? Just that simple little twist.
Well, it's like I thought about this a lot too, and I remember saying this to my brother at one point. I was like, "Look, dude, if it wasn't infinite, it would never be. Like, it has to be infinite, or it would have
It
been
doesn't
over,
work.
Would have been
It
over a
would
long
have
time
been over
ago.
a long time ago.
We're-
In all
we're
of the
running the
infinite, it
simulation
would have been
so
over
fast.
so long ago.
Yeah.
So it has to be infinite in order for the moment to be. It's like, or
And
it
within
isn't,
that, your suit has been corrupted, right? Because they're bringing you in for there's a whole cycle that goes on. To keep it short, they're soul harvesting you and then sending you back for karma, keeping you enslaved inside the body just enough. They give you just enough where you can almost touch the sky, but you never land back down on your feet. You always wind up breaking your head. And someone lands on their feet, and it gives you, oh, we can do it. We can win the lotto. We could win the lotto. Now, how about you're all God?
Yeah.
That's it. That's the big lotto reveal. It's you.
Yeah.
It's
Boo.
you. It's me.
Boo.
Hi.
Yeah.
What's
Hey.
up? Hey.
Shit. Yeah. Like,
Hey, check it out.
You want
It's
to
me
find
and
the
you.
creator? Look in the mirror.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I just traveled around the world to become enlightened.
Yeah.
Look in the mirror, fool.
Yeah. Well, that's the funny thing is like we were talking about this earlier, like the idea of like when people go and study with people because they want to figure themselves out, and other people have figured out certain techniques to reveal their consciousness unto themselves. Know thyself. That's kind of like, man, if you don't get that, then you're chasing the guru. But it's funny how what seems to occur in a lot of these movements of people waking up is like people want to have the exact same experience somebody else did, or they think they're not good enough or they didn't get it. Like,
you didn't have the same experience as me. You're not enlightened.
Yeah,
Right,
exactly.
right.
But I
And-
mean, people, that is such the huge carrot with so many places, because it's like, oh, well, you don't achieve it until you get there. And it's like, no, until you have this kind of understanding, then you move on. Because it's not about the initial experience. Like we were talking about all sitting in the room and seeing the cat. We're all having the same experience, but a different perspective of it.
Not one of us is seeing it the same exact way, even though we're all agreeing that it's a cat we're
exactly. Which is the same as kind of like we're all in the room and you're seeing stuff in the room right now, and sometimes I see stuff pop off or whatever. It's like I might be seeing it differently, but you are in a whole different frequency of witnessing it.
Right,
so it's like
right.
all these things are
We're
going
on different levels on the same path.
Exactly.
That's all.
Yeah.
So, some of us are, we all have the masters that have ascended before us. And what we're doing is just towing the line to the next guy or to the next group of people.
Right.
Because
like there's more.
there's so much more.
You know?
My stories are shaman stories. I'm a shaman, neo-shaman. I dip into the deep end. There is no shallow end playing. When I shallow end, it'll grab me by the head, put my face, turn it to whatever I'm using to get it into me. And it's like, why are you not using this? And I'm like, what are you doing? I just wanted to kind of chill and meditate through it. And they're like, you're the creator. What's wrong with you? You're afraid again? Take the other hit. And then you're like, wait, what? You guys just called me a punk? And they know exactly how to push the button to get you there.
Your buttons, because everyone else's experience is very different. But I think that's how your mind works. So that's how you're interpreting this information.
Well, I think you're keeping yourself in check. Like you have...
Like, no, the one is good enough, and I'm already here. I'm talking to you, right?
Yeah,
They're like,
I'm
but you
good.
could see me and hear me anyway, so you didn't really do nothing. And I'm like, yeah, well, I'm just chilling. And they're like, oh, you really? And then my head just gets pulled, and I'm like, what are you doing? I can't look the other way. And they're right in my view, is it? There it is right there.
Yep.
Drink it. Smoke it. Do what you
Yep,
got to do.
yep.
Get that in you now.
The thing you need to learn. Yeah.
Because you're just playing a game right now. You're being stupid. We see that you're scared. I'm supposed to be fearless. I go, oh, the fearless one. How you doing? You what, are you scared? And I'm like, wait, no, I'm fine. I'm just laying down and relaxing. I had a rough day.
Yeah.
And they're like, you're lying.
Well, think about
I'm like,
all right, so this is...
I can't even trick them.
So here's funny things like personality archetypes. Like, all right, so Frank runs a certain personality archetype. So does Paula. So do I. So does my wife. So do my friends. But you are really strict on making sure you're not bunk on your experience.
Oh, yeah.
So I don't know how many different multi versions of you are like, oh yeah? Are you just going to fucking know all with me? Oh,
Oh, no. Frank is very in your face, in your face.
Listen,
like, I'm here, I'm ready to learn. Show me what you got.
Let's go, let's go.
And there was even...
I got my spirit boots on. Let's
even
go running.
experiences that he didn't like. They were like, no, you got to do it again. You're not doing it right. You got to do it again.
I've been kicked out of experiences.
Yeah, he'd have to relive. Didn't you have to relive your death like 4 or 5 times?
So many times. It's not even funny.
No, it's
when
not.
I was reliving a past life, they showed me getting caught in a landslide, and the last thing I did was save a few people, and then the slab gave out under me, and then I was kind of almost out.
Right.
And I pushed, and then it gave out, and I felt the fall, and I hit the floor like, oh, and then something just went sploosh, and I heard the crushing of the bones and stuff, but I popped out of my body, and I kept falling. So I thought I was going to hit the floor again. And then I realized, wait, I'm not in a body, and I saw that I was crushed, and I was in the mountain. Like they were like, "Yo, you're not getting out. You're done." Next, and I went, "Oh."
Video game says, "Bang."
And then I said, "Why do you like? I said, well, I saved a few people, but there was a lot of people that died as well, so it was like crushing. And I was like, it's kind of gross. And they're like, no, know who you are. See it again. Now I'm watching it from another angle, another direction, another step, over and over.
Okay, get back to the Thoth story, because the chat room people are freaking out and they're getting upset because.
All right.
So back to being in the orb, and then Thoth, and he's like, I created Thoth.
Okay, so
I'm not an Anunnaki.
I'm not Anunnaki the way you think.
Okay.
I'm not one of those guys. Those guys created your physical human suits and have interfered and had the slavery thing going on with you guys. They corrupted the agreement and sent us, the spirit beings. Mm-hmm. We were like overseeing the planet at the time, and they came down and said, hey, you can get more enlightenment by being within these forms, and you're part of the earth, and you'd come back in your cycle. And then we went in, and all of a sudden the death cycle was like really close. People were dying in 30 years, 20 years, and they had no memory. And we were like, hey, what's going on? And they appeared and said, we're your gods. That's what's up. Mm-hmm. And you're like, oh, gods. And they took gods and made them trapped. So I get very angry at that thought. Anyway, right. So I'm watching out the window, and the sun's there. Right. And I said, what's happening here? The sun looks like it's going crazy. I saw these giant dark spots in it. And he said, take a look. And there were spheres. When I looked, they were making a perfect circle around our galaxy. There was a lot of these things, and some of them looked like the size of Jupiter, like they took up the whole section, and then others were small, like a ball. All right, when we come back, I'll stick to the story, and I'm going to finish this up. What do I see? Look at the sun.
Sometimes I feel like I'm running down the sands of time. Another drink of ayahuasca just to free my mind. I hope to find another day what I've lost before. I'm trying to find my second thing so I can think some more. Don't try to tell me how it is or what can't be done, because
You're listening to the Truth Frequency Radio Network.
No hate, no hype, no fear.
Am I awake or is this a dream? It's a dream. A fantasy where I'd rather be. So come and talk with me. Come and walk with me. Is this a wake-up call from my reality? Have you seen my friends? Have you seen my girl? Wake me up from this. I'm trapped in this world. Thought you were alive.
So now, I just hijacked the mic for Fred because we got a lot of material to get through, and Fred promises that he's going to stick to the story.
All right, only questions about the topics of the story. So I'm looking around, and I see all these spheres, and they seem to be around the galaxy. Like, I've never seen that perspective.
And they're white.
Blue. All blue spheres.
Okay. And you're in the blue sphere, and you see blue spheres everywhere else.
And they're all different sizes.
Okay.
And I see behind us, which I wasn't really looking at, because when you're looking at the sun, that's already beautiful enough. I noticed energy was coming in like a wave. It looked like it was just echoing, almost like a tidal wave, just like flooding a city, perhaps. That's what it looked like, actually. And they were, these big spheres were getting hit by the energy, and it wasn't coming through them. It was like being diverted around them. Thus, it wasn't hitting the sun. They said something to me. Well, Thoth actually said to me, if one of these energies just blasts the sun, let's say, it's going to kick one of those, because it was moving weird, the sun. There was like these giant black things in it, like just holes that you could look through. And they were like, well, the sun's an actual portal. You could just fly through that. Mm-hmm. But you see how big that is? I'm like,
you can fly through the little black spots in the sun?
Yeah. And you portal out. That's a portal.
Right.
That's why they're coming in and out of the sun. They use it to recharge.
Yeah, total
it is
sun portal.
Well, that's what's up. And I don't know. It's so weird. They said that it would lash out, and you could see our planet. You could see the other planets, and it would have looked like a tentacle smacking 3 or 4 or 5 planets at once, like whoosh, like an ejection from the sun, like that. So there's no escape. Like, you're dead. You're done. So they're like, we're keeping that from happening. That's why we're actually here. We said we'd be back. We're back. And I'm like, well, this is why you came back?
And they're like, well, it's a pretty good reason.
One of the
But
reasons
it's
why
one
they
of the
came back,
reasons
yeah.
we... All right.
Now, say the reason.
The real reason is they can't go any higher without us. We're connected to them through the DNA. Since we have so many DNAs in us, everyone has to come back and help now.
But they're saying the reason these balls are appearing are to help help
Disperse.
Some of this
Dissipate
energy
it,
that's
yeah.
totally coming on the planet based on the
Now
completion
a
of the
little
zodiac
bit.
and the big cycle finishing.
Yes, and they let a certain amount in, right? And that's that energy everybody's talking about, wave X.
Right.
Okay, so this has been going on. They've been doing this for a while because that wave doesn't just hit yesterday and it lasts this long. This has been going on for a while, years, since like the 80s or 90s
80,
or something.
I think the harmonic conversion's 87.
Mm-hmm.
That's when that thing came in.
Yeah, well, these guys, Thoth explained that when they ascended, they bounced off the planet. They were like, we're out. We're done here.
Boom.
Boom. They had covered. There's pictures of guys that look like Thoth. There's Quetzalcoatl and those guys.
Yeah.
They all look similar. These bird-headed guys carrying the key and the scroll and all that. They went land to land, and in every land, they taught what they had to be taught, and then they moved on. That's why over here in Mexico, it's at this point in history, and over here, there's another point in history where this developed, and then it was multiple times, and they had bases going back and forth.
Oh, so they just were sharing their knowledge?
Yeah, that was the idea.
Right.
And then they were done. They were like, okay, we're out. Our message is here. We have our people that work with us and everything. And as soon as they bounced, there was like a full corruption occurred. People claimed they were bloodlines, and there were wars over this. And they said the whole blood sacrifice was injected into it. So we know this is a reptile interference. That's how you always know it's them. They want blood all the time. Right? There's some kind of weird demonic corruption in that, people would say. People still argue with me that UFOs are demons, and I'm like, no, demons are demons, aliens are aliens, ETs are ETs.
Right.
Like, everything's real. There could be things pretending to be other things as well. Like, look at me, I'm an alien, but I'm a demon.
Right.
Look at me, I'm a demon, but I'm an actual alien. Right? They do that to you to scare you off or to trick you in one way or another. Basically, we're food.
Not in this house.
Not in this place. But we're food on every level.
Yeah.
For these things.
Yeah, everything's energy. And it's like if you're going to be giving off free energy, well, then somebody's going to be getting a free sucking.
That's right.
Yeah, you're not. Listen,
siphoning, dude.
You don't take the responsibility yourself, something else shows up and uses it to their favor.
Right.
So anything that you opt not to use in yourself will be corrupted by something that is you're not picking up in your five senses. If you're getting 4% of everything around, and that's like Olympic athletic mind, full yoga meditation, you're getting about 4 to 5% out of what you can do.
Right.
You take that step into plant medicine, you're looking at 100% at times.
Yeah, it's like, what are you?
I've just become all that's it.
Yeah,
it's a wrap. You've just seen it.
Yeah,
that's why I tell people you could take the steps without it, and then those that are fearless go for it. Clean yourself out, defrag your system, and go on. All right, back to the story. So I say to him, man, this spot on this spaceship looks really cool. Like it was glowing white, and it was a circular, it looked like your tattoo.
Okay, like Flower of Life.
Flower of Life. And it was lit up. There were symbols that went all the way around. And I said, oh, so I must come. Is this like where humans or whoever pops in on a trip or an experience
when they wake up,
when they come to this place that you take them, is this where you put them? Is this like symbol that I stand on where you put anyone who would smoke DMT come onto the ship? Mm-hmm. And they said, no, that's where you stand. That's your spot. And I said, oh, so you tell anyone that does this that you bring in here, this is their spot. Like, this is the visitor location. And he looked right at me, and his mouth doesn't move. You just hear him.
Right.
And his head went,
like a bird.
What's wrong with you? That's your spot.
Your spot, Frank.
Frank just made a pecking motion with his head. It's like, that's your spot, brah.
So I freaked out, and I'm like, oh. So, but when I looked again, I noticed that I didn't look like Frank. I looked like the real me, the man who walks in all worlds. It's a smokeless, it's fire with no smoke.
Right.
Right? Like almost like energy of white, gold,
like white
awesomeness.
White fire in the shape of a man.
Yeah, exactly.
So I look over. This is where the story gets a little crazier. And
Oh, really? This is where it gets a little.
because I
crazy.
looked around him, he was huge. Yeah. So I kind of like, and he's like, "Go ahead, take a look." And I peek out behind him, and I see people everywhere. Not one human except one. At the time, I didn't know who he was. They told me who he was. So I walked over. There was a ball of light inside on this deck where there was two of every one of these beings. There were like two of them. So there were two velociraptor humanoid beings that looked very angry and upset inside this white ball of light on the deck that I had to walk past. There was a line of two, I guess it was man and woman, of different creatures.
Okay.
And they were waiting on line to go into the ball of light. But you can see these velociraptors were horribly angry. Like, they were like, "Raw," and then, "Oh my," that whatever they were thinking must have freaked them out. The face they made was from, "I'm going to eat this guy in front of me," to, "Oh my God, what am I even thinking?" Because I remember looking at them feeling bad, and they were like, don't go near them. They'll attack you. And I'm like, what are they doing in the light? And they said, it's not quite a re-education, but these beings will kill you. They're smart and intelligent. They have spaceships. They travel interdimensionally. They're highly intelligent. But they eat everything and everyone. They just want to eat you and kill you and move on. They want your technology. They want to take over. They rape and pillage everything. And they're dinosaurs. I go, they look like velociraptors. He goes, they are. I go, that looks like Jurassic Park. He goes, they are in Jurassic Park because you're going to see them physically one day. You don't want to meet them. Those are a no-no. So I got the no-no on two species already. One was, they call themselves the Watchers. They're lizards. They're reptilian Draco, I believe. They were like warrior class, these things. I've never wanted to be away from something so bad in my life. And those velociraptor-headed beings were frightening. They were snapping at me, and then they sounded like they were crying. I says, well, what's happening to them? And they're like, how do you wake them up? How would you wake them up? And I'm like, well, I have no clue how you'd wake them up. I don't even want to be here right now because of this. Right. This place looks like a Star Wars thing now, but all the lights are on. It's all lit up. Right. So there's no...
There's no wondering what you're seeing.
Yeah, so they said, well, inside the light, they show you all the horrible things you're doing, and you'll feel it emotionally. So you get to review the whole thing.
Oh, so it's like a life review.
Now I'm like, well, don't you get that when you die? And they're like, well, your definition of death is horrible. Like you don't even know what dying is. There's no such thing as death for you. You're a creator. You just switch out bodies. Right. But I'm like, but they're physical. I go, yeah, They go, this happens physically. This doesn't happen on the other side when you die. You think we had to grab them and start showing them what they're doing because they're just eating and killing everything.
Right.
They're like, we have no other way except to show them the wrong ways of them just eating babies and stuff. Like, you just can't do that. Blood rituals, nope. No. Answers no. No. Every time. Nope. It's like no all across the board.
Computer says no.
So I walk away from them,
horrifying.
and there was a section of people just sitting up against the wall. And it was weird. The wall was golden, and you could see through it, and there was just a seat in the middle of this. It's like a big giant room, and it overlooked everything that was in this place. And I seen this little white dude sitting there with a mustache, and he was the only other human there. And I didn't look human, so it freaked me out a little tiny bit. Yeah, we're getting to those. And I said, "Who is that?" And they said, "That right there." And now he wasn't looking at me. He was staring straight out, almost as if he was hypnotized or in a trance or. I thought he was on drugs at first. I was like, what are you guys giving him? And they were like, no, listen, he's going to be activated. Don't worry about that. And you should listen to him, though, because he's going to be our mouthpiece. And I thought that was hysterical when you say mouthpiece. I'm like, oh, yeah, that's funny. And they're like, no, it's not funny. That's going to be who it is. And I didn't know who he is. And they said, his name's Corey. So I said, all right. When you look around and there's beings that are like, the dinosaur ones weren't that big. They were like a little smaller than us, but they were wider, like longer. Nothing caught my eye quite as intensely as a giant, beautiful bird creature. Definitely as tall as the ceiling in this room. Definitely. Absolutely the same height. Okay. Thin. they you could smell the awesome.
Like the chat room pic?
Yeah, no, because as soon as I saw it, that's what we're leading to anyway. That's what everyone wants to hear about. The Avians. Thoth is a bird, blue bird. He has blue feathers, blue everything, right? But he doesn't look like them.
Right.
He looks more like a god.
He looks like he looks like a cross, like a hybrid of some kind. Yeah. And he's physical. You could grab him, but he's also can do things.
They look like the ibis bird. That's more like it, right? Is that what it's called? The ibis?
Yes, that's exactly.
It's not a crane, but it's like it's the ibis. I believe.
Yeah, and it had the long beak, and he moved it kind of like it just reminded me of the Dark Crystal, man. I was bugging out, but I felt so good around this guy.
Yeah.
All right, so I see two of these avian creatures. They were standing next to the ball, but they were on the other side of this white ball. So I had to walk across. I saw the human guy. It was Corey. They explained him to me. You'll listen to him because you like to listen to stories like that. I was like, okay.
Wait, you're talking about Corey Good?
Yeah. So seeing him there, and then.
But he's like in a trance state.
Yeah, in a trance state. A week later, I never heard of this guy, and then I heard him with David a week later. So that's how it caught me when I saw his face. I was like, whoa! I just saw him. Like he was the human guy sitting there. So these blue creatures, the drawing doesn't know justice. It actually doesn't look right. The body kind of looks right, but not. They almost look naked here.
You mean they're more beautiful than
way more beautiful. This kind of doesn't do it justice at all.
The picture is fine.
Right? So I said, are they real? They just like look like they popped up, and they're like, no, you couldn't see them. They were on the other side of the light ball. And I go, oh, I want to talk to one of them. Like I walked right up to the female one, and I said, I want to touch you. And they were like, do not touch her. And she said to me, she looked right at me, looked over, and said, go ahead. Not with her mouth. I heard, go ahead, you may touch me. And I just was like, oh, that made me feel weird. And I wanted her beak, her mouth, looked like Howard, not quite Howard the Duck.
Yeah,
like
smaller.
It's way small, like our lips, but Howard the Duck style.
Yeah.
And I said, oh, I want to feel those because you're beautiful. I need to know if those are hard or soft. And she leaned, my dude, she leaned down over me because she was so tall. I didn't want to reach up. And then you poke them in the eye and you look bad. Right? Yeah. And I touched them right on the middle and I moved them and they were softer than our lips. And I was like, whoa, that's amazing. I was like, they're way bigger, but her head, even though it was bigger, wasn't like a big, thick head. It was like a thin, long kind of head. Very, very beautiful. And I said, I was going to ask for a kiss. And then I thought that would be too much because you're changing fluids. Mm-hmm. I didn't want to think that way. Like that was a little much. Yeah. So I said, can I have a hug? And she said, yes. And her eyes lit up. I felt energy fly through me that I've never felt. And she leaned into me and hugged me like a mother would hug her son, not seeing her like after 100 years. And it was like, I miss you so much. And I was able to see it third person because I felt so good. It felt like I jumped out of that experience and was able to watch it and feel it and be in it. And she said, is that all right? How does that make you feel? And I said, you have feathers, but they're like hairs for you. Like I was so
fascinated.
I was like, you have boobs, but they're covered and they're beautiful. Yeah. And you're not in an outfit, but they're not quite like the picture. They look super awesome. Then I said, okay, so you're real. I'm touching you, but you're not. You're a collective conscious, aren't you, of some kind? And I looked. There was the male. The male was just staring at me. They just stare. That's the weirdest part. Everyone just looks at you and then thinks at you. Yeah. And then I saw two brown ones. The brown ones looked like they'll smack you up.
A little tougher?
A little bit.
Yeah, a little bit.
They were standing...
Little street bird?
They were light brown and dark brown, and they were standing behind them, and they were just... These animals, listen to me. Yeah. They're stoic creatures.
Yeah.
So everything's a graceful movement. That's what freaks you out when they move so awesome that you're like, wow, I can't believe this is actually occurring. So that made me really... start asking questions. My whole thing is to ask questions, point things out. So now I'm walking around thinking, I saw a being that was a human, absolute human, and had a spider's head. Didn't know what to make of it. I looked right at him, said I'm not happy with looking at this. And he said, are you online? And I go, not going in the ball. Are you next? Like, I didn't know, like, what, I don't know. Everyone was like from both sides putting beams into the ball.
Might go into the ball that
Yeah. So I walked.
Process or something.
I was allowed to.
Accidentally
Oh shit! Don't put me in the ball, bro. Ball of truth. Oh.
I kept stepping on the floor, going, it's real.
Right. Like this, we're in a real
They were
spot.
they told me, just walk around. This is your place. And I'm like, yeah, my place, right? And they're like, no, you're with us. Like, I wasn't getting that at all. So they tell me all the information I needed about the energy, the hitting the galaxy, and they were there to help, and they're returning, and the DNA, and how we're all connected. And they've said to me, if you sat with Source, you've seen that everything's connected, and we're here to. They're like, look, they corrupted the information, and we had to send you guys, some of you guys, the light workers, decided to go into the program, so to speak, into the bodies and work from the inside out. But everyone gets the amnesia, so it's hard. So we try to help you as much as we can. And now we're actually back. When they flew out, they said they go into a thing where 100 years they shut down, like, because they're physical. They have to stop their bodies and go into like a hibernation of some kind. And then they're off into the astral for 100 years and come back to a status body, jump back in, reawake, come back, do what they have to do. I'm like, wow, you guys got a lot going on. So you're not an etheric being. He's like, no, I'm physical. I'm standing with you. Click, click, click. You can hear my chains moving and everything. I'm like, yeah, you got all kinds of little jewels and all kinds of stuff on you.
Gypsy bird, dude.
Yeah, that's what it reminded. I thought we were going to get onto camels and ride off.
When he was done, he was like, get the computer.
I didn't know. Oh, this was the whole thing. I didn't know who he was. I never had any background into what a Thoth was. Like,
I thought. Yeah. I didn't even know what a Thoth was.
I came out freaking out, going, he was a bird and he looks like this. And she's like, come on, Google it. Just Google it. All right, anyway. So I walk off to one of the sides of the line because I didn't want to be around that being at all. I noticed that they were all kind of skeevy. Every being on that line was nasty. So I got to the back end, standing behind Thoth. The last guy online it wasn't a guy. It was a octopus looking. It was red, and it was on the wall. It was just sitting there, and he's like looking at me, and his tentacle went around my neck and then around one more time, and it took its pointer part, and it poked me right in my throat right here. And I had like some weird growth right here on my neck, right?
Like a skin
it's like
tag.
a skin tag, right?
Yeah.
And someone had told me a month before, hey, I'm becoming a doctor. If that thing's not a perfect circle, you need to get it off of you. It could be cancerous. So he goes, you should listen to your little friend. It's cancerous. Get it off your neck.
That's what the
so he
octopus
touched
said.
it, and I went, oh. Like,
That's what the octopus
So
said.
then I go, hey, oh my. And then he goes, look, look, look. And I looked over, and I seen the earth, and he goes, your earth is flat. And I said, the earth's not flat. I'm looking right at it. And he went, bye. And I go, what do you mean the earth is flat? Then that started me down that path.
Yeah.
I got beat up so bad for doing this flat earth thing.
Yep.
I asked one time. I saw the earth. It was round 6,000 times. I'm looking at it. I'm there. I'm outside of it. Yeah. I'm watching energy go around it. I see the mother spirit in it. I see the plane. The plane is flat of earth. Right? Yeah. But the earth itself is a ball, a globe. And I'm like, I don't know. Is the earth flat? And Aya came out and said, oh, you don't know? Let's show you. And I spent an hour doing that. Look how, is that flat? I was like, no, that's round. Is that flat? No, this went on for 10,000 times.
Yeah.
I was so worn out. I never asked a stupid question like that again. No. They were saying, I go, yeah, but other people, my friends, they're like, whatever, just question everything. Just don't have a belief system so strong that you'll fight each other.
Because the question itself is the distraction.
Yeah.
The question itself is the distraction, like the Kardashians.
Yeah.
You watch that, you don't know what's going on
exactly
in your own life. But
it's funny, you got seeded with some truth from whatever this thing was, and then it dumped you the flat earth drama.
Yeah, and then it bounced.
This is true, and you're like, whoa, but that thing on my neck, that was true.
Yeah, I'm gonna
what
die.
If the other thing's true? Gave me the true medical advice.
Wait, listen to what happens. The next day, I'll just jump ahead in parts of the story. Let me see. Yeah, so the next day, I go to the cabinet, and my grandparents, they have this thing. You were supposed to rub it on once or twice a day, and you cover it, and after like 30 days, it'll fall off. And you don't have to worry about it. Because I didn't want to go to the doctor. I just was like, eh. So I just rubbed this stuff on. Yo, it burnt it, and it fell off right there. And it was so thick in my throat. Like, it was in my throat. And it, like, cracked out and broke off in one day. And I was like, wait a second. I peeled it out of my throat.
Wow.
And I went, oh, look how big that thing is.
Like
it was weird. It left us.
embedded?
Yeah. You don't think. So then I started, that's what made me go down the flat earth thing let me question this a little bit.
Sure.
I don't want to stay on that topic because the earth is round, period. The plane is flat. All those pictures that are depicted that show that flat area on earth, they're showing you the earth plane within the round globe earth. With the firmament, the picture's not drawn to scale.
Right.
When you see this guy peeking out behind the firmament, that's the etherical realms, not the edge of the universe. You got to get your act together and get right.
Yeah.
So things are all different, individual, and it's all real. It's all across the board, and we got to be strong with this stuff because I'll be honest, we'd be toast if these guys didn't have a part in the game.
Well,
people call them the wing makers. Hold on.
Is that what? Are we? That's what the
Think
wing
of this.
makers?
This is what they told me. You ready? Thoth told me the wing makers are them. They're the Blue Avians, the wing. Okay, so
right.
all of them.
That's interesting.
Ra and
because this is just kind of coming to my. I mean, the wing
Horus.
makers information has been around for a long time. Do you know the wing makers?
I know the story. Yeah.
Okay.
All right, check it. I'll
So
give you the
supposedly
1
they
second
come
story.
back- All right, give me your version.
Somebody
of the wing makers.
comes into the Matrix,
Yeah.
into the 3D environment,
Right.
leaves something here because they can't interfere. They can't actually do anything.
They leave the disc in the mountain.
Right, and then leave. And then 40,000 years, 100,000 years,
Right.
a million years later, a crack inside of the construct that has locked you in from the artificial intelligence on the etherical side. So when you go to the eye, I've spoke about this in the artificial intelligence show. I was standing at the eye, at the top of the pyramid, and there were 11, which I was the 12th, makes one from every sign of the zodiac. Now we're understanding this more every time we go back to it. And I'm standing at the crack that the wing makers talk about. They're like, there's a crack now because we left this here. And then it created people, you leave a penny in the street, and then the guy, 2 weeks later bends over to pick it up, and the crane misses him as it swings over his head. It starts a different chain of
Butterfly
events.
effect.
That's what they set. Right. And we, light workers, light warriors, whatever you want to call us, we injected ourselves in, and we said, we'll fight from the inside back out while you guys come in from the other side. They created the crack. We're seeing it, people like me, and we're screaming about it. Like, come on, it's real, it's this. And it's lighting up the head so we can make the crack a hole in the wall and then take down the wall, eventually take the ceiling off. The artificial intelligence and the archons are responsible for that, and there is a hierarchy, and it is the astral realm. So you have to be careful. The astral is not the etheric. It's like a step in the right direction to the etheric. It's like one vibration.
You gotta blast through it.
You gotta get out of that place.
Yeah.
And once you're out of there, way less confusion. But you have to blast through that. People hit a wall, they talk about, or a cloud, and they can't break through. Sometimes it takes multiple people to do it at the same time to break through together.
Yeah.
So
it's like hitting that note, like, in music where you hit the next octave. Like,
right.
You can't halfway be there. You just hit it.
Well,
or it's like discordant. It's like, oh, I'm not hitting it. You gotta hit it.
Yeah, you have to hit the note.
Yeah.
So now Thoth was telling me, from now on, I'm your translator. Right now, he means, because I said, what's my involvement with ETs, extra? And he says, well, you can understand them now when they come and talk. Oh, heads up, buddy. Thanks for being here with us.
Sometimes I feel like I'm running down the sands of time. Another drink of
Protection from deception, and Blue Avians, Blue Spears, they're real. They love you guys, so check them out. Google it, bitches.